So good afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and get started with our webinar since I am showing that it is 12 o'clock. I know we've got a few people still joining, but I want to welcome you to this free webinar, Social Media Guidelines for Your Business. Many of you may remember that we did a 6-week webinar series back when COVID started. And this is the first webinar I've done since then. So certainly a lot has changed in the world since then. A lot has changed with social media. In fact, your Facebook page may have changed this morning. I know lots of people are getting switched over to the new Facebook look. I'm not a fan. I don't know if you are, but lots of changes are happening. But I am very excited that you are here. I'm excited to be doing a webinar again. I'm thrilled, as always, to have the partners that we do to help put these webinars on, including our home, the chamber here in Cabarrus County, but also some other chamber partners that have joined us along the way that are finding these social media best practices webinars helpful to their members. So appreciate the Burke Chamber, the Gaston Regional Chamber, and the Chamber of Catawba County, all of who have partnered with us to bring these webinars to their members. And like I said, I really want to just welcome you here today. If you're new to me and if you haven't been to one of my webinars before, my name is Lisa Perry, and the best way that you can connect with me is on Facebook, in my Facebook group, Social Media Success with Lisa. That's a great place to connect with me, where we try to put relevant information as it comes out in social media. And I'm always happy to pop in there and answer questions and just help you through your social media journey, whatever that is, whatever your role is in social media. And also, even though I don't have a picture of him today, Brian, my husband, is here with me today, and he manages the Q&A. So if you have any questions along the way, just click on the Q&A and shoot him over a message. We will have Q&A at the end, because sometimes I like to just kind of go through the presentation and then answer questions at the end. But instead of you hanging on to that question, go ahead and type it in, and Brian will either answer it there or save it for me to address at the end. But again, we just want to welcome you. Brian and I have been in business for 26 years. We just celebrated our 27th wedding anniversary. So we spend a lot of time together. So COVID and quarantine for us was no big deal. Like, we've been doing that for a long time. But we do now have kids learning from home. And so many of the hurdles that you're probably dealing with as well, we have on our plates. So trying to run a business, be a good employee, understand everything that's going on in the world can be kind of crazy. But the reason I wanted to do this webinar today, Barbie Jones with the Cabarrus Chamber, reached out to me and said, I'm just seeing so much negativity on social media. We have businesses reaching out that are getting more negative comments on their social media when they try to enforce mask mandates and things like that, and they don't know how to handle it. And so I put this together to just really give you some of the advice that I give to businesses or to my clients about how to handle a lot of what comes your way through social media. The thing you have to remember is that people are always braver behind their keyboard than they are in person, right? So they're going to say things on social media that they might not say to your face. And that's one thing I think you really need to keep in mind and realize that that's going to happen. I think what we have seen happen over the last 6 months is just that's been very much amplified. As people are under more pressure, maybe they don't use as much caution with their words through social media, and businesses are trying to figure out how to handle that. And so hopefully you'll get some takeaways today to help you through that journey as we continue on. So some of the things I'm going to cover is just how to communicate with your customers during tough times, how to handle those negative comments, Something that's really important to me, and I think that has become more important as time goes on, is things you can add to your employee manual. You may not even have a social media policy in your employee manual, but it's probably never more critical than now that you do. Also, how to talk to your employees about their social behavior in and out of work, because that has become increasingly an issue for businesses, and how the behavior of someone on their personal account reflects on your business because it lists you as their employer. So just kind of how to handle that, and then what to expect from your employees on social as well. So put together what I think is a good little agenda of things that I hope will benefit you as we get started. So I wanted to share this little bit of levity before we get started. I saw this in my social media feed the other day, and I think it's a good way to approach things. And it says, don't argue with people on social media. Every classroom had a kid that ate paste. That's probably who you're arguing with, right? You probably see these memes all the time, and just kind of poking fun at, that person that you're arguing with. We cannot eliminate the discourse that's going to happen on social media. But as businesses, we want to try to manage it as much as we can, but also to understand that some things you just need to let go. But understanding the difference between those two is where the challenges are. So I wanted to share some examples with you and kind of talk through just some of, like I said, the advice that I give. So we've obviously experienced really tough times lately, and so many businesses, I think the struggle that they're facing is all of these mandates that have come down, and the business being responsible for enforcing them. And I'm going to use Cabarrus Brewing Company here in Concord. I think that they did such an excellent job communicating with their customers, and continue to do a great job communicating with their customers during tough times. So I think they're a good example to kind of use. So one of the things I think you really want to make sure that you're doing is letting people know what to expect when they visit. So I think this is a time where you actually want to be doing more social media, not less, because a lot of people, if they've been apprehensive about going somewhere, they want to know, what are you doing to keep me safe if I come to your place of business? And that goes down to even, in the pictures you're sharing, are you wearing a mask? Or do you not have one? Like, what is it that the experience is going to be like? Also making sure that as time goes on, that you're thanking your customers for their patience a lot, all the time. You can't do enough social media posts right now just thanking people and pointing out those people who've had great experiences, because quite honestly, the negative will come. The people who want to complain about your business are going to do that, and probably now more than ever, because they're frustrated. Everything is taking longer. Everything is, requiring more of them. So I think as a business, one of the best things you can do is communicate that thank you for your patience. And here are people who were thankful, were patient with us, and had a great time at our business, or had great service at our business. So first two things, just let people know what to expect, let them know what precautions you've taken, and then also just thanking your customers along the way, and whatever those changes are. The other thing is to make sure that you're framing your comments in a positive way. And what I mean by that is, in this example from the brewery, they mention in their posts that we are excited to welcome you back. We want to keep our customers safe. We want to keep you safe. These are the things that we've done. And we're not saying we don't want to do this, but our governor is making us. If you come off negative, then that comment is immediately going to bring in comments of people who are going to argue and say, well, the governor is right. And so you want to be more neutral in your comments and just say, our goal is to keep you safe. Our goal is to keep our employees safe. And that's why we're doing this, and try to avoid language that could be inflammatory or in any way show that you as a business don't like that you have to do these things. And again, I think Cabarrus Brewing Company has been an excellent example of remaining extremely positive because these restrictions really certainly threw their business for a loop. But they came out, they have had more posts than ever before so that they could stay connected. And, I think that's what's been kind of interesting in what we've seen over the course of the pandemic is that our phone keeps ringing, or I should say my email inbox, because people are realizing that social media became one of the few ways to connect with their customers. When you suddenly can't walk into businesses, how strong is your web presence and how strong is your social media channels? Because that's how people started to reach out. And so this has been a big reevaluation time, I think, for people when it comes to their digital marketing presence. And so I don't think there's a better time than now for you to, if you're not using it strategically, to use it more, but to make sure that you use some of these best practices when you're doing it. Another thing that I get asked about a lot is responding to negative comments. And I've broken the negative comments up into two categories. And this one I call a reasonable negative comment. So this is an example from the brewing company. And she was basically saying that because she didn't have a smartphone, she couldn't purchase a beer because they were trying to do touchless purchasing. And you can see that Cabarrus Brewing Company came in, responded, and in a very positive way, and they actually had an exchange. And in the end, what they said was, we will look to have our hosts better prepared to explain this process, which I think is just an absolute perfect answer, because my notes on negative comments are, one, to make sure you respond. Don't let negative comments go unanswered most of the time. Remember, and these are reasonable comments. Find a solution if you can, but you don't have to solve it on social media. One thing I tell my clients never ever to do is hash out the details of a particular situation on social media for everybody else to see, because whoever that person is has their frame of what happened. You have your frame of what happened. You don't want to discuss it on social media. But in this case, the brewing company reached out just to get a little more information about what their problem was, and then said, okay, let's work with our staff to make sure we explain that process better. But what they didn't do is they didn't publicly blame the customer, and they didn't blame their staff either and say something like, well, our staff was wrong and they shouldn't have done that and we'll reprimand them. So, they've done a great job of balancing that support your customer, but also support your staff, because that says a lot. And so if there is a situation where someone was in the wrong, you don't want to hash that out in a comment on social media. And so, this is just a great example of one that was handled well. Now, the second type of negative comment is the unreasonable comment. And that's one that's just somebody who just wants to complain or really goes off base and, like I said, wants to attack the governor and why this happened and, that this is un-American, whatever that argument might be. They go way off track to what really the meat of your business is. In these type of situations, I always use a rule I call one and done. So you respond once, you try to take that conversation offline. And what I mean by that is to either have them call or email you. And this is an example. I would say, we are so sorry that you had this experience at our business. We always strive for the best customer service. Please feel free to give me a call at whatever your phone number is, or email me to discuss this situation further. And what that one statement does is it shows other people who are visiting that comment that, hey, this is a business that is stepping up and saying, hey, we're sorry that there was not a great situation while you were here. Feel free to give me a call. But you're not debating it in the feed. You have an accepted blame, you have an assigned blame. So it's a great response. Feel free to steal it and use it. But then you're done. Because then when they come back, because they actually don't want to call and have to talk to you, and they go on, you just leave it. You don't continue. It's the one and done, because those are the unreasonable comments that they really don't even probably want a reconciliation to whatever it is that they're frustrated about. But if you don't respond at all, you look like a business that doesn't really care about its customers and doesn't answer complaints. So that's why I really like this philosophy of how to respond to negative comments. Now, there are situations, and we are in the political, election time. That is one of my big exceptions, that people who comment on political posts can really, really be negative. And a lot of those I just leave alone. And I advise my clients not to even respond. But in most cases, like I said, if you're a small business and it's someone who's had a bad customer service experience, I think those are really, really important that you respond in one way or another too. Another thing that I really think businesses can be doing, especially during difficult times, is share your successes. I think a lot of people, because we aren't out and about as we used to be, we don't really know what's going on in those places of businesses that we used to visit all the time. And so share those successes that you're having. I love this one that the brewery did that shows, their drive-through that they've got. So they're showing how they've pivoted and what they're doing now. It's a new release, but it's already a huge success. They've got a line of cars so the people are safely in their cars, and someone can say, hey, this is a situation that I can do. This is how I can go to the brewery and pick up that new product that they have. But it shows that, that's a win for the business, that business is doing well, and they're welcoming you to still be one of their patrons. And again, always sharing, very safe operation of your business. I cannot tell you how important it is that you talk to your employees about making sure they're wearing their masks and things like that if you're going to do a social media post, because the last thing you want to do is have something shared that's you not doing what you say you're going to do. But find those successes, find those pivots, tell your story now more than ever during difficult times, and share testimonials from customers now more than ever. So kudos to Cabarrus Brewing Company. Like I said, they're doing a great job. They have great beers. And like I said, I love seeing a local business pivot the way that they have. So moving on, I also wanted to spend a very brief moment talking about your business and social activism. That is something else that I've heard from a lot of businesses that with everything that's happened over the last several months, how do I respond? I'm not really sure what to do. I think that what happened recently was the most engaged the business community ever came in social activism related issues. But a lot of people didn't know what to do. And I just want to preface this with, I am not an HR person. I am not, this is just kind of my opinion on things, but it's the advice that if you were to hire me, that I would give you more than likely for your small business, as far as this is concerned, and as well as what Brian and I did for our own small business, when everything started a few months ago. But I would tell you that for most small businesses, your social media platforms are not the place to debate social issues. And remember, I'm talking about your business platform. And, I think businesses were called to act more than they ever were before on social media recently. And if you didn't, that maybe you were wrong. And I am someone who disagrees with that. I think that is I outlined in these 3 bullets, avoiding any type of knee-jerk activism is key. Posting for a week or a month and then dropping that cause and moving on to the next hot topic just because it's trendy is not a good way to participate. And I personally just don't believe that, social issues are going to get solved on your business social media platform for most small businesses. I still think there's things you can do in person and other things, but social media just gets so combative. And you have to remember, it is a very one-sided conversation a lot of the time. And so, if you felt like you had to be pulled into that, you just really weren't sure what to do, I think you need to evaluate, what's our long-term goal with this? Is this something that I'm just going to post about because everybody else is right now? Or is this something that our business really wants to invest time and resources into? So that second bullet talks about if you're going to pursue activism that makes sense for your industry. For instance, a real estate group that uses their brand to raise awareness for homelessness or fair housing issues, you're going to say, okay, this is something we're going to commit to over time. These are the things that we're going to do. We're going to let our employees know that this is part of our mission. That's where a business, I think, truly gets involved in social activism that makes sense for them. But like I said, it just, if you are not going to make that type of commitment, sometimes it's important to just listen. That's what we did. And I saw a fantastic post from a friend of mine that said, several people have said, why haven't you said anything? And he said, it's because I'm listening and because I'm learning and because I'm educating myself. And I just thought that was a great answer, because there are things that we just don't know enough about. And to just jump in and say something can sometimes be misconstrued. So I encourage you to use caution, because I saw a lot of well-intentioned messages come out on social media that came off poorly or were interpreted in ways that people didn't intend. So you really have to be careful about that. But I think that you can learn a lesson from both the pandemic and from the social activism issues that have come up lately, that it is time for you to put together some policies for your company so you're not unprepared the next time this happens. And some of that maybe you're creating from scratch, but I think you need to sit down together with your company decision makers and figure out what those things are. What do we do? What do we comment on? What do we not comment on? And have a plan from there. So what I've come up with here for this webinar is some social media guideline to-dos, because I know a lot of you are here today because you're just like, I have no clue what to do. I know we need to do something, but I don't have a clue what to do. And like I said, especially if you're in that category of not even having a social media policy in your employee manual, or if you feel like you have one that's maybe outdated or just not robust enough, hopefully this will give you some ideas of what you can add. I saw this post on social media the other day, and I love what it says. This is what we wish all of our employees would do. This is what we wish all of our friends on social media would do, to post wisely over the next few months, especially because there is an election about to happen and things always get heated up during elections. We always have those people that we know who are saying, bye Facebook, I'll see you on November 6th or whatever, a few days after the election are. And I get it. I mean, I don't love to see what happens during election cycles. But I encourage you to stay the course. Continue to discourse, not divide. I think that that's really important. But again, I'm not somebody who thinks that you're going to accomplish a whole lot debating politics on social media. I really am going to encourage you and encourage your employees to just not engage. And you can't tell someone to do it personally, but not engaging is probably the better option on social media with some topics. But we'll talk about that a little bit more. Checking your facts is extremely important, especially if you have people on your staff posting on behalf of your company, and just other, some of these other things in this graphic I thought were really great. So just a few things to go by, but these are your social media to-dos. I want you to develop guidelines for your employee manual if you don't have them. I want you to assign an authorized spokesperson for social media. So if you don't have a communication department or a marketing director, that may be the owner. But if it's not the owner, then who is it? Is it the general manager? Who is going to be that spokesperson for social media, so that when something does come up and your employees are saying, are we saying anything about this, or what are we doing about this, there's a person to answer to that. And also the person that will be proactive in sharing information about social media with your employees. Which leads me to having an employee meeting specifically about positive social media activity. And I'm not just talking about on behalf of the company. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. And then also just making sure that you encourage feedback and input from your employees. If you have employees who are upset that you didn't take a stand on social activism, then allow them the opportunity to give you that feedback, and whatever, depending on the structure of your company, whether or not you pivot and do something about that. But I think that social media needs to be a bit of a discussion and not, just this is what you do and this is why you do it. So we'll kind of start from there. So personal social media behavior. Let's look at that for a few minutes. I think the personal behavior by your employees on their personal pages, you can't mandate or monitor that, right? However, it can definitely be a reflection on your company. And depending on that person's role in your company, it could be a really big reflection on your company. And so you really need to have some policies in place and some conversations with your employees. I am somebody who believes that their reason can be found with most people. But you need to talk about it, and you need to remind people about it. It needs to be a priority for your company at staff meetings or annual reviews or anything like that. We need to be talking about it now more than ever. And I think most importantly, we just need to educate employees about the pitfalls of negativity on social media and how that might reflect on them personally and the company. Again, you can't monitor or mandate what they say, but you can talk to them about the pitfalls about it. And I think that it's really important that you do. This is an example of an actual inbox message for one of our clients. This is a business, and this is a private inbox message that came in, and they sent a screen capture of the behavior of one of their employees. And you can see this was around Aunt Jemima syrup or Uncle Bun's rice had racist thoughts. And this person in the comments, this employee said, I was wanting Uncle Ben to work in the field. And so this person who sent the email captured those screen captures and that person's profile and sent that to the business that person works for, and said, you guys should probably handle this racist guy who works for you. I'm about to report it. And so it has now become something for the business to deal with, someone's personal social media behavior. Now, you as a business might say what they do on their personal time is up to them. And that's fine. But now your company, this has come to your company's front door. And so whether or not you choose to approach this employee about that or not, what I believe you should do is talk about appropriate behavior as a company. And, you can use that as an example that, you've seen examples of companies getting approached because of behavior, and to really encourage that restraint of behavior on social media. Again, I want to emphasize, you cannot monitor your employees' social media behavior. That is an invasion of their privacy. You need to trust your employees to do the right thing and only check their social media if they've given you a reason to believe their posts have violated your company's social media policy. Now, this has nothing to do with the company. It's just something that somebody found offensive, but it is a reflection on your company. And so it's something that needs to be addressed. I've included links at the bottom of these slides, and you'll get the slide deck as you always do from our webinars for more information. This was from Indeed that puts out a lot of good information about social media behavior. But I just wanted to share this because it is real. And it is a real problem for businesses, the behavior of your employees on their personal accounts. And I think that conversations with them about, the expectations of you as a company can really help somebody maybe think twice before they post that type of comment. What I've included here is a sample social media policy, because I know, like I said, that it can be really hard to start from scratch. If this is it, if this is all you add to your social media policy, obviously change the name of Super Value IT. This is the example that Indeed gave, but it at least talks about company values, the policy of transparency, safety, owning your views, and confidentiality. Those things are so key that you make sure that anybody who's doing social media on behalf of your company takes into account. Obviously, you don't want them sharing things that haven't been released yet. You don't want them to have seen something and then just go out and share it. So it's something you need to remind people of. If they do go on social media and do a long post about their views, that they say, these are my views and not the views of XYZ company. Now, how many times have you honestly seen that? Probably not too often, but if your company gets in trouble because of something that employee did, and then you have this in your employee manual, you actually have some recourse. And so that's why I think it's important that you have these types of things. Using social media at work, this is a policy that you may have. Like, for instance, if you're a company that just says, okay, you can't be on Facebook during the time, very different than if you actually want your employees to use social media to help promote your company, which is where you need to make sure you have the policies as far as what they can and cannot do. So kind of two different policies: social media use kind of personally and while at work, but also if you're going to represent the company, what are those policies? And then what is that policy enforcement? But this is very much a key thing for you to develop, to have in your arsenal as an employer, to make sure that you're covered, but also so that it's clear to your employees, kind of what that behavior looks like. I'm a big proponent of social media employee advocacy, those employees, and saying, please share about, different things that we have coming up. They can be your very best people on your marketing team, but you need to make sure that they understand the policies and that they use best practices, because you really don't want people representing your company and every post they have is riddled with typos, right? Because that makes you look bad. So this is just such a gray area for businesses, right? Do I encourage my employees to be on social media, or do I not? If they're behaving badly, what do I do? So it's very gray. But I think starting with a policy and talking with them frequently about best practices, best behaviors, and pitfalls of what can happen personally. Just like that example that I gave, I'm not sure who that person was talking about contacting, but that can affect that person personally. And so, you as a business want to make sure you're educating people all the time about best practices. This is an example that I found when I was doing research for this webinar that I really liked, and it's from Intel. And they keep it pretty simple. What they're saying that their guidelines is to disclose your relationship to Intel, to protect Intel, and I love this one, to use common sense when posting. Don't we wish that everybody used that one, to use common sense when posting? But they literally have kept it pretty simple. So don't think that if you're creating guidelines or a policy for your company, it has to be complicated. I think it just needs to be frequently mentioned and reminded of, especially now. It would be ideal to talk to your employees and say, the election's coming up. We know that people have very passionate feelings one way or the other, but please remember that you are a representative of our company. And, things that you say and do reflect on us. So, you can always debate with people in public, but try to limit that. I think that that's really important, that we talk to people about that and encourage them in some way. So let's look at Intel a little bit more. The things I like about their guidelines is disclosing, who you are, your presence in social media, to be transparent, encouraging them if they are going to do posts about your company and your products. What are the hashtags you use? What is the language you use? What's the correct name of your product? I mean, really making sure that your employees are educated on things and that it's not them just kind of going off and doing their own thing on social media on behalf of your company. But you have to outline that for them. And if you want to make sure that they stick within their area of expertise. If someone is in one department, you don't want them talking about something else that they don't really know about. But you don't want to be afraid to tap into that person's area of expertise either, because you're so afraid of what's going to happen on social media. So like I said, you really want to look at how can I best use my employees to help bring exposure to the company in a positive way. And having a good guideline for them is the best way to do that. Protecting, like I said, talking about this with your employees. It's literally not just about protecting the company, it's also about protecting yourself. Making sure that they understand that we don't want you to slam our company or our competitors even. That those authorized spokespersons that you're going to find, they're the ones that can comment publicly on a competitor's performance if you do that at all. But we certainly don't want you trashing other people's direct competitors, because again, that reflects poorly on you and can affect your business. So just make sure that you communicate with your employees what those social media expectations are, because now more than ever, I think it's just so critical that you do that. And then lastly, just using a common sense approach. Professional, straightforward, appropriate communication is always best. Anyone that's going to represent you, that's what you should ask for and what you should certainly encourage them to do. But again, weaving in that for yourself, but also personally, because they may not work for your company forever. And what you do on social media can follow you, and you can use that as a way to just train your staff on appropriate social media usage. Nobody gets a guideline on how to use social media. I mean, I have a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old boy. Believe me, I wish they had a manual on what you should do on social media and what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. But they just hand it to you, and nobody really knows what they're supposed to do or what is beyond the line and those types of things. But because so much of this is public, and it can right there, next to your name, say the company you work for, it is important that you take it seriously as a business and that you know what you should do. So I've included a few other links here to other social media policy examples. Like I said, I know that examples really help, and you may pull a sentence from here and a sentence from there, and that's how you can kind of construct your own social media policy. But just put something in place and have that meeting with your employees and sit down and talk about it, and maybe listen to what they say. Listen to maybe some of the concerns that they have. But make it a priority of that what happens on social media be of a certain standard either way. So just a reminder, this is kind of like the things that you can do and that you can take away from this is to develop those guidelines, find that authorized person, have an employee meeting specifically about positive social media activity, and then encourage kind of ongoing feedback and input. And as I mentioned earlier, I feel like this is a great way for me to reach back out and touch base with you after we did all of those seminars on the best practices, is if you are not currently doing social media, you have to be in today's world. Like I said, our email has blown up with people who wished they had a bigger presence when COVID hit. And, or there's people who just, like I said, don't know the skills to actually do social media well. And I think that a lot of what I talked about today is knowing how to do social media well and how it can hurt you if you don't. And so we have created this course that we are so proud of. We launched it during COVID. We had such great response from it. And I just want to make sure people know that it's still available. It is no longer over 8 weeks. You can purchase it and have access to all 6 modules. So you could do it in a weekend if you wanted. The breakdown is it is online video-based course. So you just watch the videos and each one has instructions and then worksheets that you can work through. This is an example of the first module. So it has 4 lessons and or videos and then corresponding worksheets. And this is really for you if you want to be accountable for getting this roadmap done for your business, if you want to give it direction, if you want to have focus for what you're doing. And the interesting feedback that we've gotten from the course so far is it's a lot of information, but people start to think more clearly about what their path is. And I think that that's the danger in social media, is when people don't have a clear path of what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I will tell you, if all you did when you purchased this course was watch the videos, because sometimes, the worksheets, some people are like, well, I'm not sure what I should put for my customer journey. Even if you just watch the videos, you're going to be better at social media when you're done. And I am just very passionate about people understanding why and how they should do social media. We realize that there are people who can't afford to hire a marketing company to help them, but this course is meant to put that framework for you so that you have a strategy in place. I wanted to share just a few of the amazing comments that we've received from people who've done this course. I love what Chrissy Lagasse does. She even shared one of her posts that she was able to create using the worksheet diagram that she did, and then actually getting a testimonial employee spotlight series out that she'd been wanting to do for a long time. She did the rule of thirds that she learned about in module 2. So it was so exciting for me to see her put all of that education into place and actually start using it. Cindy Hansen was great. She talked about how she's had so many aha moments and realized that this journey that she went through to purchase the product was, she saw how I did it and how I thought through it, and then how she can do that for her own customers. And I love Dina Braun, who used to say how much she thought marketing was terrible and stressful and didn't enjoy it, but now she's starting to see a plan unfold. And that's what this is all about having a plan and having the enthusiasm for how to use social media as a tool. Because that's what it is. Whether it was during COVID, and suddenly your doors are closed, what are the tools that you have available? What storefronts are still open while it was your social media? And I think that was so important. And I love that they're learning that through this course. The online course, the value is at over $1,200, but we've even thrown in more freebies on top of that. One of the things that I talk to clients about all the time is just getting all their digital marketing assets together. So we have a great worksheet for you to do that. We have a private Facebook group that you can ask questions in throughout the course anytime. So you'll have current students and former students, as well as my staff, to answer questions. We've had lots of people put posts in there and just get feedback. That's what you get with this course. And then one of my favorite bonuses that people liked was the getting started with Google My Business. And a lot of people didn't even realize they had Google My Business, or they didn't know how to access it. And we've put together a guide for exactly how to do that. And so 2 of our students, said, who knew this had even been established? And that's fixed, and now we're using it. So they're actually managing their Google My Business account. So that's just a bonus. You get that just as an extra when you sign up. So in addition to the 6 modules, you get some other things to really help you along your journey. And one of the other things that we heard from students that was a huge value to them is if you decide to do the VIP access, which is just a little bit more money, but has great value. We actually, our team goes in and does an audit of your current Facebook and Instagram accounts. And, you know, I had folks reach out and say, wow, this is exactly what I needed to help give me some direction. And so a lot of value in there. There is another version that's a little bit less. If you don't think that you need that, you just need kind of the direction and the strategy. But just know that that's an option. The VIP also gives you access to our Instagram Stories 101 course. So if you're ready to take that leap into Instagram Stories, you get that for free as well. So there's just so much value in this course. We're so proud of it. We absolutely love the people that have done it and given us such great feedback. We feel like it is very reasonably priced for what you get. Like I said, if you have people working for your business who have never had any type of social media training, this can really help them focus in both on just marketing in general, but also so specifically how to do Facebook and Instagram, really, you know, into the weeds of that and how to do certain things. We are offering 2 discounts, so you can use this coupon code through the end of the month and get yourself a discount. And we also offer payment plans to make it more affordable. So really just wanted to share that with you and to show you, you know, Jennifer Persley is a realtor. She's somebody who's done the course, who I've worked with. When she first started, she was terrified to be on social media, but she has literally found her voice, her personality. She knows how to use the tools now. This was her very first post. And the first thing I said is, hey, Jennifer, you chopped your head off in your post. And she, you know, but she was so excited to get this out there. But now she's just killing it with all these great photos. She is a storyteller and she understands how to use the tools. So like I said, I encourage you to be like Jen. We do offer a refund policy. If after 14 days you just don't think it's for you, you can get your money back. So I encourage you to do that. And then just a few other questions if this is for beginners. I like to say sort of. I certainly think you need to have been doing social media for a little while in order to do this, but it does assume that you have some type of knowledge, but it moves slowly enough that you'll be able to follow along. And it's why I love the video format, because you can always go back and re-watch something again and again. You have lifetime access to it. And you can share it with multiple people on your staff if you want. And like I said, how long it takes is completely up to you. You can do one a week. You can do it all at one time, whatever it is that fits into your busy schedule. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. But I would love to talk to you more about it. This last slide has more of my contact information. And Brian said there are a few questions, so you can keep those coming. Let me see what things we have. So, how do you feel about okay, great question, Tanya. How do you feel about just deleting negative comments and contacting the person through a personal message? So normally, I will tell you, I never want people to delete negative comments, because I have seen it many, many times that person will come back and say, well, you deleted my comment, and so then it looks like you as a business are trying to hide something. And so I'm always very, very leery about anyone deleting comments unless they just are riddled with curse words or anything like that. Normally, I like to respond to the negative comment. Quite frequently, other people will respond to the negative comment as well. Whereas if you delete it, it just really angers that person. Now, what I would do is respond to that and tell the person in the comment, I'm going to send you a personal message to discuss. Because again, that shows other people that you're addressing it. Now, if these are negative comments that a lot of people are making, that may say something about your business, and that is a different problem. But a negative comment that is very clearly from a negative person that, you know, is one in a midst of positive comments, I just don't think you should be so afraid of that. Because like I said, we work in a world where we are not perfect. And if you try to clean up your feed to eliminate everything that's negative, about your business, that's not going to go well. And honestly, Facebook's algorithm is at some point going to penalize you for that, because you can also, before you delete a comment, you can hide a comment. If you right click on it, you can hide it. And in that case, the person can still see it. Like, they still see their comment, but nobody else can. But what happens there is, if they have a friend of theirs go and they're like, well, my friend can't see it, so you must have hidden my comment. So it just becomes this like bigger negative sometimes than the comment that they had in the first place. And so, like I said, deleting messages is always a last resort for me, because it can frequently introduce additional issues. Like I said, as opposed to reaching out to them directly, I usually encourage them to reach out to me, and then kind of put that back in their, back to them to do something. So Tanya, I hope that answers your question. Let's see, we have a question. We're seeing a big decline now that businesses and schools are headed back. How do we keep up the amazing engagement we had during the shutdown? And great question. I mean, it's so funny. Even this webinar, like, the signups for the webinars during that 6-week series, I'd never seen numbers like that. And then this webinar, we've had less sign up, right? And I'm like, Brian said to me, well, Lisa, you got kind of spoiled there for a minute. Everybody was at home and they didn't have anything else to do, right? But I think that the question is just that you've got to keep the activity up. When I mentioned lots of posts, lots of exciting things that are happening, that's the best way to get engagement, and trying to get people to share their positive experiences, the fact that they are still able to come to your business and enjoy themselves just like they did before. You've got to work a little bit harder to get people to share that, whether that's talking to people while they're there, taking a selfie with them, those types of things. But people are starting to get a little bit more spread out now that things are opening back up, and that's to be expected. But I would just continue a very steady stream of what is your story, what is happening with your business, how are you changing, what exciting things are you adding, all those types of things. What can people expect? And I think that that's really important. But great question. Okay, let's see. What do you do when you are heavily pressured for an answer on your position on a specific social activism manner by customers and employees? So, again, I personally don't like to do anything on social media when it comes to social activism. I would even go to email before I did social media, because like I said, social media just gets out of control. And I feel like you can control that message a little better. I think that you need to, as a business, understand, why you're saying something and what you're going to do after that. Because like I said, if you just come out with a very disingenuous, I'm doing this because everybody else is doing it, that can actually have a bigger negative effect. And so I think that the best advice I can give you is that you've really got to sit down and figure out where you stand on the issue. And if you say, as that person that I thought did a great job, and it is how I feel as well, is that I'm not ready to say anything because I'm still listening and I'm still learning and I'm not sure yet what we're going to do. Now, I think the world has changed, and that many of us that are leaders in the community, there is going to be more expectation that we take stands on those kind of things. But there's nothing wrong with saying that you're taking the time to really understand it, but then you really do need to at some point follow through with that. And I think you can also listen to those people, those customers and employees that are pressuring you. What is it that they think? Why do they feel that way? Ask them a lot of questions before you act as well. But there's nothing wrong with saying that you're not going to talk about it on social media. There are other places you can talk about it, whether that's in email. I don't even know that I would use my website necessarily, but however you choose to communicate that, that's certainly up to you. So that's all the questions that I had. Thank you all for attending. Thank you for the great questions. I truly hope that, like I said, you've taken something away from today to help you, encourage you in your journey. We will send out the slide deck and the replay video, just in case you need that. That will have the links to those websites that I mentioned. And just please keep in touch. We'll probably our next webinar we always do a big social media trends for the new year in January. So, we'll see what 2021 holds. But thank you all and have a great day. Take care.